Welcome to Exempliphi. Thank you for stopping by. Today we're going to be talking about how to write your own workout program. I'm doing this because I know not everybody has money for a coach. It could get quite expensive. So if you can, get by just writing your own program, then why not? You have the discipline to work out. There are things you're not going to get if you don't have a coach, okay? Like you're not going to get that play-by-play, the constant changing of your exercises with little effort on your own part, the encouragement that a coach can give you, the advice, but motherfuckers is broke. So if you fall into that camp, this video is definitely for you. And if you fall into the camp of, I have my own motivation to do this, I shouldn't be making fun of you guys. Either way, this is going to be a good video for anybody. So the first thing you need to do is you have to decide on an abstract goal. This is by far the easiest part of writing an exercise program. Your abstract goal is going to be something that's not very specific. It's just like who you envision yourself in the future being, right? I want to be big, strong man. Or I want to be lean. I want to be able to be somebody who could run away from a motherfucker if I wanted to. I want to be somebody that could throw some elbows if I wanted to. I want to be somebody that could row a boat really far. Whatever that is, that's going to be your abstract goal. What that abstract goal is basically, it's the big piece of clay, okay, that the artist chisels into a nice statuesque gentleman or lady, right? So that's what we're going to do now to our own clay. We're going to mold it into a lean, mean programming machine, okay? We're going to whittle that down using our SMART goals. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Let's start with the S. Saying I want to be big and strong isn't very specific, right? What you really want to say is I want to gain 10 to 20 pounds of muscle. Obviously, this is not going to come overnight. So this goal is going to help you, fragment it off into smaller, more manageable goals. But nonetheless, it needs to be more specific, bro. Whatever that goal is. If it's I want to be a fast motherfucker and be able to, then your goal might be to run an 8-minute mile or increase your mile time. Or decrease your mile time? Decrease your mile time. If you want to be shredded, bro, then what your goal actually is to lose a certain amount of body fat. So whatever that number is, write that down in this section. All right, so it's a different day. As you could probably tell, different lighting, different camera position, different Dragon Ball Z shirt from Target. I believe we were on SMART goals, and we were on the M, which stands for measurable. So how are you going to measure your progress and know that you're on your way to your goal? If your goal is fat loss, your measuring tools could be the tape measure, it could be the scale, or it could be one of those bioelectrical impedances where you hold it out here, and it finds your body fat. Those aren't the best, those aren't the most accurate, but that's okay. As long as you're using the same measuring tool consistently, you should be able to get consistent results and find a trend upwards in body fat or downwards in body fat. Now, I would recommend using no more and no less than 2 different measuring options. Say you're only using the scale to measure yourself, right? And you have some fajitas the night before. Delicious, right? That's a lot of sodium, right? So you're going to hold on to a lot of water. So the number on the scale might not go down the next day, even if it fits your macros, those delicious fajitas. And that one measuring tool that you chose wasn't as reliable as you thought it would be. If you use a second measuring tool, right, you use the bioelectric impedance, that's going to give you a more well-rounded answer as to why your weight isn't going down. Another reason you want to measure your progress is because in the long run, it takes a long time for you to see progress and to see results, especially if it's fat loss. So something like the progress picture method might be the way to go because you can see the changes that happen over a long period of time. If you look at your progress picture from week 8 and compare it to week 1, you're definitely going to see a difference. And if you're not seeing a difference, that means that something definitely needs to change within your program. So either way, it's definitely important for you to measure your goals. Next, we have to make sure that your goals are attainable. So if you have never ran a day in your life, don't expect to run a marathon within 2 weeks. Also, if you've never touched a weight in your life and never stepped foot into a weight room, don't expect to gain 10 to 20 pounds within your first year of lifting. It's just not going to happen. You want your goals to be realistic because if you set these unrealistically high expectations for yourself, then you're always going to fall short and you're going to feel bad about yourself when you do. To summarize, make your goals something that is relative to where you are today, not where you're going to be tomorrow, and not relative to the person sitting across from you in your classroom, not the person that you see on your Instagram. It has to be relevant to who you are right now. Moving on. Is your goal relevant? So we have to make sure that your SMART goal is relevant to your abstract goal. If you want to be bigger and stronger, you're probably not going to be practicing your split. If your goal is hypertrophy, you're probably not going to want to practice your 1-rep max. These things can be fun to practice on the side while you're reaching your goal, but they're not probably going to make it into your specific program for that goal that you want to achieve. All right, lastly, you want your goal to be time bound. So what is the times table for you achieving your goal? Realistically, you want to have multiple goals over multiple times tables. So going back to the example I used at the beginning of this, if you want to gain 10 to 20 pounds of muscle, you're not going to get that done in 1 year. If you're in the gym bullshitting all the time, you're definitely not going to gain that 10 to 20 pounds of muscle. You're probably going to look like me. But if you want to reduce that goal in size to gaining 5 pounds of muscle within your first year of lifting, then that's something that's definitely attainable. Furthermore, you can break that 1-year goal down into a 6-month goal, 3-month goal, and even a 1-month goal. And the 1-month goal is going to have a lot less to do with, oh, I want to build muscle, but it's going to be something like, I will consistently hit 5 days a week in the gym. Okay, now that we have our SMART goal, we're going to have to work it into our schedule. Usually people would just take their goal and then write out their workout program right there. No, you cannot do that. And the reason is, if you don't have time to hit that workout program, it doesn't matter how optimal it is. You have to fit it into your schedule. If you only have 3 days a week that you can afford to work out, then you're not going to make the most optimal muscle gains by bodybuilding standards. But if you try to fit in 5 workouts a week and you fail, you only hit 3/5 of the workout, then you're not going to make optimal gains anyway. You want to hit 3/3 of your workout, not 3/5. Quick maths. So write down how many days a week you are willing to exercise. Not only what days you have available to exercise, but what times you have available to exercise, right? You might have school and work in 1 day, but if you have a break in between, is it possible to fit a workout in there? And is it optimal to do so? The one big thing about writing a workout program that a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that it has to be enjoyable. If it's possible to fit a workout into that little break in your day, but you don't want to do it, it's going to have you pulling out your hair because you're going to be nonstop, doing things that day, then don't do it. Choose a different day that's more optimal for you. On the other hand, if that's the only time that you're available to work out and this goal is important enough for you, then by all means, I was going to say shove that workout in there, but shove is a really aggressive word. So I'm going to say slot that workout into that time space. And the last point I want to hit on for this section is I don't want you to write 7 days a week because that is not healthy. No matter what a David Goggins or a Jocko Willink might tell you, working out 7 days a week is not the most optimal for our bodies. You need to have your time to rest. You need to have your time to sleep. So you have to account for those times as well. Be proactive and write these things ahead of time because if not, the fatigue is going to sneak up on you. Next thing you know, you're taking 1, 2, 3 rest days in a row. You lose your motivation and you lose your momentum. So program your rest days. This is not a drill, okay? All right, next we're going to move on to the FIT principle, which stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. So we're actually going to move backwards through the FIT principle and start with type of exercise. So choosing a type of exercise is actually more complicated than it seems, all right? There are different modes of exercise for each goal that you actually have. Say you want to be good at running, that's your abstract goal. There's different kinds of running. There's sprinting. There's long distance running. There's interval runs, right? And those are actually 3 different modes of running that use 3 different fuel sources. So you have to decide on which mode of running you want to run with, and which you don't. The unfortunate thing about a workout program and about our lives is that we only have a finite amount of time and you need to exclude certain things from your workout program. And that's fine. You could work on those things later because a workout program is time bound, as we talked about before, right? So at the end of this workout program, you can go through this process again, find a new goal, and work on that other thing that's been in the back of your mind this whole program. But for right now, let's keep it simple, right? Focused on 1 to 2 goals. If your goal is size and strength, you're probably going to want to work on weight training. If your goal is to be the best long distance bicyclist that you can be, you're probably not going to want to incorporate a lot of weight training into your workout program. But if you just want to be an all-around healthy individual, then you're probably going to want a mix of different training modalities to get the maximal results. The ideal healthy person should weight train, should stretch, should do cardio, should foam roll. You might not have time to do all those things, but the more of those check boxes that you can check off, the better. Now that we have the type of exercise that you're going to be engaging in, let's move on to time. We actually already discussed time in the last point. What times are you willing to work out and slot your workouts in, all right? Intensity. How intense are you going to be going during your workouts? For anybody watching this video, you probably want to familiarize yourself with the RPE scale, which is rate of perceived exertion. Basically, a glorified 1 to 10 scale, 1 being I can do this activity forever, no problem, right? Like walking. 10 being I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm gonna die, like maximal effort sprinting. The thing is, once you hit a 10 on the RPE threshold, the time you need to recover is going to greatly increase. So for most people, you're probably gonna wanna cap out at an 8 on the RPE threshold, unless your goal is to be able to do something that's intrinsically high intensity, like sprinting or like becoming maximally strong. But even if these are your goals, you have to periodize your intensity. You can't go a full 10 RPE every single day you work out. You're maybe able to do that maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. But those other workouts have to be 8 RPE maximum. If your goal is to be able to run a 5K, then you probably don't ever want to reach above a 7 on the RPE scale. It's just not necessary. There are other ways to get to that level more comfortably and probably more enjoyably than coughing your lungs out after a run each day. So figure out your intensity. Just write low, moderate, or high intensity. That can make it simple in this section. So when you look at it before your workout, you're like, okay, let me not overwork myself. Let me not underwork myself. Let me get into the right zone for success. All right, and last one is frequency. How often are we gonna work on each training modality? So for the person that wants to do the 1 rep max on the bench, how often are you gonna do that? Is it gonna be once a week, which I don't recommend? Is it gonna be once every 2 weeks, which is better? Or is it gonna be once a month, which is the most optimal for muscle strength testing? If you're somebody that just wants to be all around healthy, how often are you going to be doing your cardio? How often are you going to be doing your weight training? And how often are you going to be stretching? These should all be relative to your SMART goals, not your abstract goals. So although your goal is to be all around healthy, if your SMART goal prioritizes cardiovascular health, you're probably going to want to do more cardio than weight training in your program. Now that we got all that out of the way, Jesus Christ, let's move on to exercise selection. So write down some exercises, if any, that you enjoy doing. So for example, if your goal is to increase your aerobic capacity, but you absolutely hate jogging, then maybe you should work on biking or swimming. If your goal is to increase muscle mass, but you hate the bench press, then switch over to something like the cable press or cable crossovers, anything that you enjoy doing that's going to lead you towards your goals. Look, you want to look forward to your workouts because your workout program is going to get hard regardless. There are going to be days when you fucking hate it and you don't want to go into the gym, you don't want to work out, you don't want to get out of bed in the morning if you're doing morning workouts. You want to make sure that your exercise selection is reflective of what you want to get done and what you're willing to do. I want to be bigger and stronger too, but I am not willing to work every single muscle group 3 times a week. That's just not happening. Doesn't fit my lifestyle. Now that you have the exercises that you like, let's write some exercises that you don't like. Unfortunately, in an exercise program, if you have a certain goal, there are things that you probably need to do that you don't want to do. Whether you like it or not, if your goal is to be a better power lifter, you're going to have to squat, bench, and deadlift. Sorry if you don't like the deadlift. Who the fuck really likes the deadlift, all right? Sadists, that's who. But for the rest of us regular folk, we have to actually force ourselves to do deadlift because it fucking sucks, all right? And it's taxing on the nervous system, and then you have to rest, and then sometimes you hurt your back, and then sometimes you're not able to lift the weight that you want to lift, and you feel bad about yourself, and then you look over to the next rack over there, and there's some tiny Asian girl who's hitting twice the weight that you're hitting, and it's very discouraging. But if my goal is to increase my deadlift, then unfortunately, I'm gonna have to hit my deadlift. Next, you can just write some accessory exercises, if any, that you want to fit into your program. If it's a muscle building goal, then you're probably going to need a bunch of other accessory movements that you need to do in order to reach that goal. If your goal is something more simplistic, like being able to run that mile in a quicker amount of time, then you probably don't need a bunch of different accessory workouts and you can just skip that part. If you don't know a lot about exercise selection or what exercises you need to reach your goal, then you probably need to do a little research in order to find out what needs to be done in order to lift a certain amount of weight, get a certain chest titty aesthetic. The easiest recommendation from me is to look up somebody who is successful in your activity or your goal. Take notes on how they train, what they do in order to reach the top level, and emulate that. Obviously to a lesser degree, but they know what they're talking about. because they've been doing it for years to excel in their sport. Lastly, we must throw everything into a conducive order, starting with how many days a week are you working out? If you can only work out 3 days a week, take your top 3 or 6 exercises that are most difficult and divide them evenly across those 3 days. This is done so you can divvy up all the undesirable exercises and you don't have to hit them all in one day and have that one day of the week that you're like, damn, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to work out today? Fuck that shit. You want to reduce the suck in your workout program. Beyond that, all you have to do is divide the rest of your exercises across those 3 days in order from most difficult to least difficult each day. So the beginning of your workout needs to be the most difficult part. This is easiest to talk about when it comes to hypertrophy. So if your goal is to get a bigger chest, you're probably going to want to start with something like the bench press and end with something like the cable crossover. Cable crossover, much less difficult, involves less muscle groups than the bench press, and is going to leave you less fatigued than the bench press. So you always want to end on that thing that's just going to cap off your workout. It's more like the cherry on top. You want to leave the cherry on top exercises, all right? So in summation, your day of exercises should look like an upside down wedding cake, right? Where the groom and the bride are at the bottom, right? So that's your cable crossover, and the big, chunky, delicious part, right? That's your bench press, should be at the top, and that's what you should begin with. All right. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for stopping by, all right? If you want another video describing how to change this from week to week or periodize it for a long term, let me know right down in the comments below. Also, let me know who your favorite Dragon Ball Z character is. If it's not Vegeta, let me know what went wrong in your childhood. If all this is too daunting, too difficult, too complicated, or you don't have time to write your own exercise program, you can email me at reachcoachben@gmail.com or DM me at Exempliphi on Instagram, and we can talk about your goals and get you on a program that's right for you. I work with all budgets, and we can get you to your goal ASAP Rocky. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.